Lucifer is not who you think. I saw him. I stood before him. And what I found changed everything I ever believed about heaven, hell, and what comes after. Before I take you into the full depth of my story, I want to sincerely thank every single one of you watching right now. To my loyal subscribers, thank you for being my anchor and my strength. And to all new and returning viewers who have not yet subscribed, I appreciate you deeply. I truly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button, because that is the fuel that powers this channel and helps stories like mine reach more hearts and souls. Please, do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments section below. I am reading everything. I want to know what you think. Now, let me take you to the beginning, to the moment everything I knew unraveled. My name is Clara. I am a 43-year-old American woman from Iowa, and until that day, I thought I had life figured out. Married, 2 children, a steady job at a middle school, and a heart full of faith. I went to church every Sunday. I taught Sunday school. I prayed. I believed in heaven, in hell, in Lucifer, the deceiver, the enemy, the one to avoid at all costs. That was what I believed. Until the day I died. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember standing in the kitchen, fixing a pot of soup for dinner. The window was open, and the breeze carried the smell of lilacs. The radio hummed softly in the background. My youngest, Emma, was upstairs doing homework, and then, just like that, the world around me turned upside down. There was a sharp pain in my chest, like fire punching through my ribs, and my knees buckled before I could call for help. I collapsed to the ground, the spoon still in my hand. I heard my daughter scream. Then everything went black, but I did not stay in the dark. I felt my body lying there, still and heavy, but my consciousness floated up and away. It was like stepping out of a tight coat. I looked down and saw myself, lifeless, eyes open, lips parted. Emma was crying, dialing 911 with trembling fingers, and I was weightless. I expected to see a tunnel of light, something warm and golden. That is what people always say, right? The light, the angels, the peace. But what I saw was not light. It was a tunnel, yes, but it was dark, not evil, not terrifying, just dark, like nightfall before the stars appear. And in that quiet darkness, I heard whispers. They came from everywhere and nowhere, soft, clear, yet not frightening. They called my name. Clara, Clara, come. I drifted toward them, slowly, cautiously. The air around me did not feel cold or hot. It felt alive, like it knew me, like it had been waiting. At the end of the tunnel stood a figure, not monstrous, not horned or burning with flames. No red eyes, no tail, none of the stories from church matched this being. He stood tall, his skin shimmered like shadow and light mixed into one. His eyes were ancient, not cruel, not kind, just knowing. He did not smile, he did not threaten. He simply looked at me and said, "You are not ready, but you must see." I could not speak, but inside me, a wave of questions rose like a storm. Who was he? Where was I? Why was I here? And then I knew. I do not know how, but I knew. The name pressed into my mind with a force I could not deny. Lucifer. Everything inside me froze. I was standing in the presence of the one my Bible study warned me about, the fallen one, the enemy, the deceiver. But nothing in me felt afraid. He turned and began to walk. The space around us shifted like flowing glass. I followed, not because I wanted to, but because something inside me knew I had to. Like a truth buried for centuries was about to be revealed. As we moved, scenes formed around us. Memories, faces, tears, people. I saw a mother praying over a sick child, a man kneeling in prison, a teenager standing alone at the edge of a bridge, all of them calling out to God. And in the shadows behind them stood Lucifer, not mocking, not manipulating, watching, listening, mourning. My heart twisted. I thought he was supposed to enjoy human pain, revel in it, feed from it, but he wept Why are you showing me this? I asked, or thought, or maybe both. He turned to me again. Because you have been lied to. The words were not angry. They were heavy, like carrying generations of silence. I do not know how long I spent there. Time was strange in that place. But the more I saw, the more my soul unraveled. Everything I had been taught, every sermon, every verse, every warning, began to look like a wall built out of fear and half-truths. Lucifer was not what I had been told. He was not innocent, but he was not evil in the way I had imagined. There was pain in him, grief, and most of all, rejection. You must go back, he said at last. There is more to understand, but your time is not yet done. No, I whispered. Please, I need to know. I am not ready.
You are,
he said. But they are not. Before I could ask what he meant, the darkness began to crack. Light poured in. I felt myself pulled, fast and hard, like a river sweeping me away. Then, pain, sharp, burning, real. I was back in my body, tubes in my mouth, machines around me, doctors shouting, my husband holding my hand, weeping. But all I could think about was him, Lucifer, not the monster I feared, but a mystery, wrapped in sorrow, truth, and something deeper than good or evil. And I knew my life would never be the same again. The hospital room smelled like bleach and plastic, the ceiling lights were too bright, and the machines beside me beeped in a rhythm that both comforted and irritated me. I had been back in my body for almost 3 days. The doctors called it a miracle. They said I had gone into cardiac arrest and was gone for 7 minutes before they managed to bring me back. 7 minutes, that was all. But in that time, I had seen enough to fill 1,000 lifetimes. I said very little at first. My family thought I was just grateful to be alive, that I was in shock. In truth, I was afraid, not of what I had seen, but of what would happen if I tried to tell anyone. Who would believe that I had stood before Lucifer and did not feel fear? Who would believe that he had shown me compassion? I kept asking myself why he chose me. Why would someone like me, a school teacher, a mother, a woman who spent her whole life believing what she had been told, be shown such a truth? Maybe because I had believed too blindly. Maybe because I had followed the rules, without ever asking why they existed. But now, I could not stop asking. That night, when the nurses left, and the halls grew quiet, I closed my eyes. I did not expect to see him again, but I did, not in the same way. This time, it was like a dream, but more vivid than anything I had ever known. I was standing in a field of endless twilight. The sky above me was neither night nor day, and there were no stars, just stillness. Lucifer stood in the center. He did not glow, he did not threaten, he simply waited. You came back, I said. I never left, he replied. I am always here, even when you forget. There was no anger in his voice, only a sadness I could not begin to describe. I stepped closer. I need to understand. He nodded, then extended his hand. As soon as my fingers touched his, the world around us shifted again. This time, we were no longer in darkness, or in dreams. We were in places, real places, familiar ones. I saw the inside of a church, old wooden, candles burning. A priest shouted at the congregation, describing hellfire, torment, and the punishment waiting for sinners. He spoke of Lucifer with venom. Every face in the pews looked afraid, even the children. Lucifer stood beside me, his eyes on the pulpit. This is the story they told, he said, and they repeated it, again and again, until it became truth. Is it not the truth? I asked. He turned to me. Would truth make you afraid to ask questions? Would truth demand worship under threat of pain? Before I could answer, the scene changed. We were in a war zone. Smoke, ash, crying. 2 soldiers dragged a wounded boy. In their minds, they believed they were doing the work of good. Their cause had been blessed by their leaders, who claimed it was righteous. Lucifer whispered, "So many do evil in the name of good, and they call me the enemy." The weight of what he said fell on me like stone. Then he showed me something else, something I was not ready for, my own life. Moments when I had judged others quietly in my heart, Times I had refused to forgive, even though I smiled and nodded. Times I looked away from someone in pain, because it was easier than helping. They were small things, things most people would never notice, but I saw them now as pieces of a deeper truth. I had followed religion. I had obeyed the rules, but had I truly loved? Lucifer looked at me then. His eyes were not kind. They were not cruel. They were full of reflection, like he had seen all of this before in millions of others. You were told that I rebelled, he said, that I chose pride. But what if I chose honesty? What if I questioned what others were afraid to question? I felt a deep ache inside me. I wanted to cry, but could not. He continued. I was not cast down for evil. I was cast down for refusing to pretend. But you tempt people, I said. He sighed. I test them. I show them who they are, not who they pretend to be. What they do with that truth is their choice. I never force. The words broke something in me. For years I had blamed a being I did not know for the darkness in the world. But what if the darkness was not born from him, but from us, from the lies we tell ourselves, from our fear of facing the truth? Why show me this? I asked again. Because you died before your time, he said. And that opened a door. Few pass through and remember, even fewer choose to tell. People will hate me if I tell them what I saw. They already hate what they do not understand, he replied. Your truth will not change that, but it might awaken someone, and sometimes that is enough. I felt something shift then. The twilight began to fade. Will I see you again? I asked. Lucifer did not answer. He only looked at me with a gaze that felt like both goodbye and beginning. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the hospital bed. Tears stained my cheeks. I felt like I had lived 1,000 years in one night. The next day, I asked for a pen and paper, and I began to write. I never thought words could feel so heavy. Each time I picked up the pen, it felt as though I was lifting 1,000-pound weight, not because I did not know what to say, but because I knew that once the truth was written, I could never take it back. I would never again be the same woman who walked into that hospital, and the world would never see me the same way either. But I had to write it, not for fame, not for attention, but for the quiet part of me that knew truth is not meant to be buried. When I was finally discharged and returned home, everything felt strange. My house, my neighborhood, even the way the sunlight fell across my living room floor. It was as if the veil had been lifted from my eyes, and I was seeing the world for what it truly was. Not black and white, not good or evil, but layers of confusion and contradiction, built upon stories we were too afraid to question. My husband Stephen tried his best to understand, but I could tell he was unsure. He loved me, yes, but love does not always translate to belief. Sometimes love is silent discomfort, and I saw it in his eyes every time I mentioned the experience. You were dead, he said one night. Maybe what you saw was your brain reacting to the lack of oxygen. I smiled softly. I know what I saw, and it was more real than this conversation. He wanted to argue, but he stopped. He just nodded, and that was the last time he brought it up. But I could not let it go. I began writing every day, mornings, afternoons, even at night when I could not sleep. My journal became a map of everything I had seen, the false images, the misunderstood roles, the misplaced blame, and at the center of it all was Lucifer, not the horned monster we had painted into every sermon, but a being of depth, burden, and pain, not because he was evil, but because he had been misjudged for so long. And now, I carried that burden too. People began noticing changes in me. Some welcomed it, others did not. At church I stopped reciting the parts of service that no longer aligned with the truth I had seen. I still believed in God, but not the one who ruled with fear. I believed in the source, the great light, the creator, who held all things in balance. The one I had felt during that brief moment of passing, a presence that was pure love, without threats, without punishment. One Sunday, during Bible study, the pastor asked if anyone had thoughts on the fall of Lucifer. I raised my hand. The room went silent. I said, what if he never fell? What if he was pushed for asking questions? The pastor blinked. "Excuse me, what if Lucifer was never evil?" I continued, but simply honest. There were murmurs, disapproving looks. I knew right then that I had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed, but I did not regret it. After class, a woman named Sharon approached me in the parking lot. "What you said in there, it shook me," she whispered. "I have always wondered, but I never had the courage to say it." That was the moment I realized why I had been shown all of this. Not to change the world, but to give permission to those who had been silently doubting, silently hurting, to question, to wonder, to seek. Still, there were consequences. Some friends stopped calling. Family members grew distant. Even my children, though loving, seemed confused by the way I spoke now, the calm certainty I carried about the unseen. But I pressed on. I spoke in community groups, started a small blog, and soon, others began to share their own experiences, near-death stories, strange dreams, spiritual encounters. Many described similar revelations, beings who were not what tradition taught, feelings of overwhelming love, and a sense that what we call evil is often misunderstood pain. One story stayed with me. A woman from Texas had nearly drowned as a teenager. She said she saw a man in a space of quiet light who told her, "The greatest lie ever told is that I am your enemy." When I asked what the man looked like, she paused, then said, "He looked sad, but proud, like he had accepted his fate long ago." That was Lucifer. I knew it. As time passed, I realized something deeply unsettling. The real darkness in our world does not come from some fallen angel. It comes from ignorance, from the refusal to see beyond what we have been taught, from fear disguised as faith. And the most painful part, most people are comfortable with the lie, because the truth forces us to change, and change is terrifying. Still, I do not hate them for it. I understand it. I was them once, but not anymore. Now, I speak without shame. When someone asks me what happened during those 7 minutes, I tell them with calm clarity, I died. I met the one everyone fears, and I found no monster. I found a mirror that showed me what we choose not to see. And every day since, I have carried that reflection with me, in not as a curse, but as a calling. Because sometimes, the truth is not meant to bring comfort, it is meant to wake us up. Thank you for following this journey to the end. What are your thoughts about Lucifer and the experience I shared? Was it eye-opening, confusing, or even hard to accept? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you would like more stories that go beyond the surface, exploring the deep and hidden truths we often overlook, do let me know. There is still so much to share.